might wonder why us anglers get up at stupid o'clock in the morning to come fishing. But looking around this incredible environment, I kind of rest my case. It's dawn, I'm on the beach at Thorney Island in Hampshire, and it's breathtaking. What more can I say? The sun coming up, I was up at 4:30 this morning to get down here. Now, I'm not alone this morning, in fact, far from it. There are just over 100 anglers taking part in the Orvis Saltwater Fly Fishing Festival, based around here at Thorney Island in Hampshire, and 13 miles of beach up and down this wonderful piece of coastline. Now, looking around, these guys are already fishing this morning. They've been up since the crack of dawn, but they're not the only ones trying to catch a few fish. Just have a little look at this. This is a seal colony. Now, we're not in the middle of nowhere. We're not filming a wildlife documentary in the back of Beyond. This is on the Hampshire-Sussex border, just about 500 or 600 yards out from the shore and the population. And this seal colony live here. They swim around in the water in front of us. And they're waiting for the tide to come in too, so they can get out there and catch their breakfast. What an incredible sight, and what a privilege for us anglers to be in the same environment as these wonderful creatures. And it's all about the environment that we're in this weekend. You know, you've got so much coastline to explore. This type of fishing, saltwater fly fishing, is one of the biggest growth areas of our sport in anywhere in the country. And is it any wonder when you see wonderful places like this? Part of the attraction of it is it's a really wild environment. You get to travel all over the place. You get to explore really interesting places. It really is the ultimate fishing adventure. This water I'm standing in is absolutely crystal clear, and there's a little bit of wind from that direction, which is a northeasterly, not the greatest wind for fly anglers in the salt to fish in, but actually some fish have already been caught this morning, just 1 or 2 little tiny bass. We've also seen quite a lot of mullet moving around in the shallows. Those are 2 of the target species that the anglers are going to be going for this weekend. Now, talking about anglers, apart from the totally gorgeous nature of this incredible location, one of the reasons I've come here first thing, in amongst just over 100 anglers, is this bloke over my left shoulder. That is Andy Miller. Now, last year, in the first ever Orvis Saltwater Fly Fishing Festival right here at Thorney Island, Andy had a cracking weekend and actually finished 2nd overall. Well, Andy, this isn't too bad, is it? What a morning.
I know, absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Couldn't have wished for better weather, really.
No. I was a little bit worried about the wind being, you know, northeasterly, but there's not that much of it, and it's flattened everything off, hasn't it?
And we're a little bit down below here, so we're sheltered to some extent. Yeah, I mean, I've walked down here, and it's a long way. You know, it's 4 miles each way, so I mean, it's a fair old round trip, and I've probably done it 10, 15 times this year.
Wow.
You know, so that's put a lot of miles in, and I've been down at low water. I fished, on the ebb, just to find out what the lay of the land is and where the fish are holding. So I tend not to stand still. I move.
Yes.
Because the fish will move, and they'll sit in different places. So it's finding where they are or where they're likely to be.
The tide comes in here quite quickly.
Yeah.
So what's your understanding of how the fish move through this area? What's your approach to
So my thinking here is that this is, they've got the open water out here, and so on the flood tide, the water's coming into the harbour, the clean water's coming to the harbour. It hits the first land it hits really is this, and it will push the water from left to right here, from east to west, and the fish will follow it, the flow of the tide. Oh, there's a mullet just moved over there.
Well, there's a few of those in here. I mean, this place is alive with activity. Isn't it just incredible that, you were saying a couple of minutes ago what you saw on your walk on the way in.
Yeah.
Just talk me through it.
So, I'm typically, I'll see, obviously all the wading birds, but I mean, I've seen a barn owl, covering the field hunting one evening. I've seen kingfishers. I mean, we've seen plenty of seals, although they can be a bit of a pest sometimes, but I mean, it's still, they don't interfere really. And I think they just want to play.
What's the approach then? So you're fishing a clouser?
No, I've got a little orange deceiver on.
A little orange deceiver.
Yeah,
Let's have a little look at the fly, because fly choice is really interesting in this sort of fishing.
It is, and my thinking here is, obviously if they're feeding on ragworm and crabs, something that's got a bit of orange in it, normally works well here. The thinking here is just really just to stay, you know, a bit off the bottom until we get a bit more water.
Yeah.
And then I'll put the clouser on. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, look, I'm going to let you get on and concentrate on your fishing, because, as I say, it's a competition, and you need to get up in that top echelons again.
That'd be nice. That'd be nice. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Best of luck.
Yeah. Cheers, Andy.
Now, one of the things I've noticed about him, and one of the reasons I think he's successful at this sort of fishing, is he covers an awful lot of water. So he will cover this entire stretch of beach. He's moving all the time, just searching out those bass. One of the other challenges we've got in saltwater fly fishing, you know, this isn't the easiest environment to deal with, I have to tell you. Your casting has to be on point. Casting is a real issue, and you're always trying to get enough distance to get that fly far enough away from you to cover the fish. Now, one of the things you need to do is work on your casting all the time. So who better to give us a little bit of casting instruction than the man himself, probably the best caster I've ever seen, Charles Jardine.
Welcome to my top tips, and understanding the fly cast when you're going out saltwater fishing is absolutely crucial. You can have all the flies you like, you can have the best gear in the world, but if you don't know how to use it and cast it, it's of no use whatsoever. So I'm going to try and break these down into 5 little essential little tips that might help you get that bass or that mullet of a lifetime. Now, if I put my thumb on top and I compress my hand around that handle there, you'll notice that this is getting all tense just in there. And there's a gap opening up in these sinews here. That's tensioning, that'll tension, that'll tension. You can't cast in a rigid way. But if I do that, automatically this rod comes right into my forearm. All the tension has gone out of my hands. All the tension from here are now fluid. Now, if I take that to another stage, to me, I'm now going to come onto this foot, so I now open up my body. So if I bring what I'm holding here in my left hand to my right hand, which is my dominant hand, I can now pick up that fly rod and become fluid. And the essential thing is to be at one with the fly rod. If you're working backwards and forwards and at ease with your fly rod, you're going to cast so much better. You really are. Almost like a baseball throw. Ease back, and there's that baseball throw. You see how easy and fluid that whole thing was? Just pick it up, drift back, throw that rod. If you can get the end of the line moving, you've got a cast. I'm going to drift that line back so the end of the line's moving. Now I'm just going to change direction, make a roll cast, and out it's gone. Wherever that rod tip goes, the line will follow it. So if you fuse the two together, the end of the line moving, you're moving it with that rod tip there, you're climbing up there and casting. What can possibly go wrong? When you go out onto the salt, just throw convention to the wind almost. Now you've got to battle the elements, and it's as much about you as anything else. So knowing how to haul is vital, and loop control. It isn't about effort, it is about using the rod and the line and you in a smooth build-up of energy. You hold the line across your thumb, okay? Keep it under tension, but hold it across your thumb. And you pull the rod away from that point. Keep it fixed. Don't do anything with that thumb. Keep it fixed and keep that movement going. Now, you notice that this hand now starts to want to do something. And that's what you do. You just literally go with the flow. Keep that line moving. And now you'll start to, oh, it's starting to drop, I better do something. Okay, well, I better start hauling. And all of a sudden, you start hauling. It's about how your hand moves too. So you can have a slow haul, there, which is nice and gentle and feather down, or you can have an aggressive haul, which is back there, and that shot out. Holding that line out, keeping that line across that thumb, pulling away from that point, keep that line moving, Now just go with the flow, just go with that flow, just go, just go, just go, and it will happen. We're going to condense it all down to the ultimate goal, which is casting into the wind. It's no earthly good trying to beat the wind with force. I'm going to haul and tighten that loop. Look how easy that went out. So I literally went up, pulled late, and that just shot out in and under. But you notice that my body flowed into that movement. If I had a balloon and I tried to push it against the wind, it's got a huge surface area, it's going to come back at me. However, if I try to force a javelin or an arrow, it's just going to puncture that wind. And that's what you want to see your fly line as. Not a balloon, there, but a javelin or an arrow, there. It's quite simple, really. That's it.
So while Andy Miller tried to find the bass at Thorney Island, elsewhere in Chichester Harbour, anglers were catching a few fish. David Nemeth landed this impressive 51cm bass 2 hours into the tide at Sandy Point, near the sailing club on Hayling Island. Steve Richards, another who was close to the top in last year's event, had also made a good start to his day's fishing at a top secret mark at Selsey. This bass measured 56 centimetres. But while this event is about the competition, it's also about so much more. Introducing new saltwater anglers to the sport is very much part of it. There was a casting clinic hosted by that man, Charles Jardine. Others soaked up the sage advice of Colin MacLeod, messiah of mullet fishing and pioneer of catching these enigmatic fish on fly tactics. There were bass masterclasses on the beach and fly tying demonstrations too. Well, we've had a little bit of a move away from Thorney Island and we're now at this glorious location, which is Church Norton. And I'm with Tom.
Hi there.
Good morning. How's your morning gone?
Pretty terrible so far. Smallest bass I've ever caught, which is a result, to be fair. And then mullet off, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a sorry tale. We've all lost mullet and all of us have got sad stories to tell about it. But this is just a fantastic location, isn't it?
It's phenomenal. You can see mullet absolutely everywhere. It'd be nice if they took a fly.
It would.
That'd be an added bonus, but it's nice to see that they're out here.
What's your experience of saltwater fly, Tom?
I'm relatively new to the sport. I'm based in Brighton, and there's plenty of bass and mackerel about there, so I thought it'd be a good idea to head down here and just get some practice in.
And I mean, entering the competition, you know, it's a fantastic world you've walked into. What's your feeling about what you've seen so far?
I'm absolutely loving it. I mean, I'm not going to be competitive whatsoever, and that's not the purpose of today, as you can see from that cast. But yeah, it's just to learn a little bit more. So I'm going to pop along to a class with Colin this afternoon and then hopefully learn a bit more about catching mullet on the fly.
Well, you can tell him stories of mullet and feeding fish in front of you that you couldn't reach and the agony of not being able to get your cast.
That's everyone's story, isn't it, with mullet?
What is it keeps you coming back to this? Because, you know, the experience I think most people have with this is a lot of fishing, not very much catching often.
It's addictive still. It's being outside, just that anticipation of it might be the fish.
And the adventure side of it as well, because you explore. I mean, this place is gorgeous, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
this is a wonderful location.
Absolutely.
Well, you heard earlier on people talking about Colin MacLeod's Mullet Masterclass, which is back at event headquarters. This, here on the beach at Church Norton, is the mullet graveyard. We've all got sad mullet stories that have taken place today trying to catch these elusive fish. And I'm going to let David tell us his first sad mullet story.
Thank you for the opportunity to relive it.
You're welcome.
I was nearly over it, but maybe not. So Tom and I come down early, we walked down the beach, we saw a couple of fish, we started to cast, we worked our way up into the corner and there was a lot of mullet showing, wasn't there? And we started to get a couple of little plucks and it just stripping and it went tight and I thought, oh, what's going on here? The rod was bending, all the line went from my feet, the reel started to turn back. I thought, yeah, we're on. Tom, we're on.
Tom was ready with the
I'm
net.
on. It just kept running. Oh, we're not on anymore. And then I was ready to go home. I was absolutely gutted. having caught one before and know what's going to happen, just lose it is.
I feel like this is a
Disaster.
bit of a counselling session. Trevor, tell us your sad mullet story.
Well, very, very similar. We Bob and I followed Tom down at the beach, and they saw the fish, and then they sort of got in and started fishing. We said, well, we'll move up a little bit more, and started fishing. And I hooked into my first ever golden grey, and it was on there for about a minute and a half. Nice bend in the rod, and I thought, yes, this is well hooked, and then it isn't.
And Tom?
Yeah, I had a brief mullet encounter, not as good as Dave's actually, but it was within about 5 minutes of Dave's one. So again, I was just stripping it back, briefly hooked into a fish, bang, bang, and it just came off. A couple knocks in the rod and it was off, so that's it.
We keep coming back and having another go, and the reason we're all standing around talking and sharing our sad mullet tales is that now it's high tide, so very little fish activity is happening around us. And what we're hoping for, chaps, is a little bit of action this afternoon. We've got, 3 or 4 hours left to fish here at Church Norton. So with a bit of luck, those sad mullet tales will be transformed into happy stories to share in the bar later on. Well, I can't quite believe what's happened. I've just jumped in to fish with Tom and David, and you heard our sad mullet stories. I've seen a couple of fish move, cast the flies to them, and I've hooked up. Now, I'm very well aware that this battle is far from over, and this is a big fish, let me tell you, in very shallow water, and my heart is absolutely pounding. And I can see this fish coming up in the breakers, and I'm just going to start to move towards it because I think it might be beaten. It's on the top. It's on the top. Oh, it's gone again. Gone again. Unbelievable. I thought that fish was in the net for all money. And it's just turned and had another run. These fish never give up, you know, this is the most extraordinary experience. Look at this go, look at my reel spinning. They've got so much power in this shallow water. Oh, it's miles away again. You know, this is so hard. The experience of doing this in these breakers, in this beautiful water here at Church Norton, surrounded by your mates, who've gone the journey with you. You know, we've all suffered, haven't we, guys? We all know. And it's not in the net yet. Now, last week, with Colin, I lost a big fish after playing it for 15 minutes, which I don't think I'll ever get over. So I know that this fish is not yet beaten. My arm's starting to ache, I have to tell you. This is a hell of a fight, and again I think this fish is going to run again. It's going into the really shallow stuff, which I don't want. There he is. Oh. Come on. 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 It's in the net. Oh my God, it's in the net. Oh my God. I've got one. Oh, that's a huge mullet. Wow.
Do you want a drink? You can go home now.
Well done, mate.
Look at that.
That is huge. Is that going to fit in there?
Look at this fantastic creature. He's taken the spectra shrimp, nailed it. Look at that. Oh, wow. That's a £5 fish, isn't it? I have to tell you, I'm shaking like a leaf at this point because this has been a hell of a journey trying to catch this fish, and this is a really special creature. And it's what this event's all about, this and the bass. Now, I have to tell you, this event is about measures, not weights of fish. And this fish is so big, it doesn't fit in the gauge. Put his nose right to the end. This is a thick lip mullet, and you can clearly see the tail protrudes from the end of the gauge. David, you reckon 3 centimetres? Yeah. So that's a 53 centimetre thick lip mullet. I'm just going to pop him back in the net to rest him and keep him nice and wet. Well, it's just started chucking it down with rain. I don't care a bit. I'm blown away. And I need to say one thing to one person. Colin McLeod, you put me on mullet fishing a year ago. You've pushed me through, you've shown me the flies, you've shown me the tactics. And this fish, this is much your fish as it is mine. I'm just blown away by it. And I'm just going to show it to you once more before I let it go, because that's an extraordinary experience. This is really well rested in the net. Isn't that just the most stunning creature? Well, look, he wants to go already. Go on, fella. Go on. Just the most perfect piece of angling I think I've ever experienced. There's nothing else to say, really. I wasn't the only one able to tempt the elusive grey ghost on day one. After watching over my shoulder at Church Norton, David Bazin put his mullet sorrow to one side to land this lovely thick lip, which measured 42 centimetres. The biggest landed in the competition on day one, though, was this beast of a golden grey, one of 3 mullet species in the UK, landed by Nick Toone. And here's Billy Taylor, an ex-professional cricketer with Sussex and Hampshire, and now a member of the ECB's elite umpiring panel. He was also dragged into the mullet madness. His first ever fish caught from the salt was a 40 centimetre golden grey.
Yeah, it was really nerve-wracking, especially once he was getting really close to the net, because tried to get away a couple of times, and you kind of suddenly think, oh, I'm going to lose this. I can only describe it. It's a bit like when I played cricket, taking a wicket to win a match in front of a massive crowd and stuff like that. Yeah, it's that same kind of feeling of relief, and very exciting.
Well, Andy, you got one in the end. In fact, you got more than one, didn't you?
Yeah, I finished with 6 in the end, 4 over 25, and the biggest being 42. Yeah. So,
isn't it typical when I'm standing next to you, you didn't catch one? I mean, apologies for jinxing you with the camera. What changed, do you think?
More water. Yeah, I think I caught it about half an hour before high water, and I think that made a difference. Just that extra depth of water enabled the fish to come a little bit closer to the shore.
While Andy managed half a dozen fish, it was Steve Richards who led the pack after day one, though. His 56 centimetre fish, caught on clouser tactics at his secret mark at Selsey, held off the challenge from David Nemeth. After the early start and a long day on the water, it was time to hit the hay and drift into sweet dreams of giant thick-lipped mullet tearing off across the bay at Church Norton. The second day would produce even more drama than on day one. Well then, we're back at Church Norton on the second day of the Saltwater Fly Fishing Festival. A stunning morning yet again, and this is the location of my mullet capture yesterday. And you remember we chatted to these two fine gentlemen yesterday, and look what's happened to Tom. He's got a mullet on. And this will be, I understand, his first fish. I'm not going to talk to him on camera at the moment. I'm going to let him concentrate on landing this fish, because this is a special moment. This will be his first ever mullet. So let's hope so anyway. The advantage you've got here, Tom, is that this fish is actually in reasonably deep water, so you're sort of thigh deep. Often when you hook these things, it's in ridiculously shallow water, and all they're going to do is scream away from you and disappear. But whatever you do, do not pull this fish too hard, just really gently. This is the mullet fisher's experience. It's never there until it's there. Just try and get that rod at a sort of 45-degree angle over your left shoulder. Not too much higher, just angle it slightly. Let the rod do the work and it will tie the fish out. But just don't be tempted to try and pull it. They've got so much power, and you've not beaten this fish yet, let me tell you. Isn't this fantastic, being here and seeing this happen right in front of us? So here on the beach this morning, it's been a stunning start to the day. I mean, we're in a position here at Church Norton today where the tide is about an hour later on, so there's a little bit more time for the guys to fish. The day is much shorter today. The actual competition session is shorter. We've got about a dozen, maybe 15 anglers who've made their way down to Church Norton. There's plenty of room for everybody. This bay is truly extraordinary, and I just fish everywhere. I must have seen a dozen fish crashing on the surface already. Doesn't mean they're feeding, obviously. You know, we've kind of established what mullet are like at them over the last few months, but there are a few bass around as well, and there's a chance here of some really special fish. It's just a case of finding the water they're willing to feed in. Morning, Michael. Seeing your oppo into a fish, how you feeling?
I'm really excited for him. I'm so excited for him. I got my first bass today.
Congratulations.
And I was pleased with that. And now I'm even really happy. I'm so happy for him. He got it, like I said.
Oh, here we go. Just don't try and stop it, Tom. No. Just let it run.
He's not moving.
They're turbocharged, these things. They are extraordinary, and it's just a patience game. You can't win against these fish. It's extraordinary stuff.
I think I'm going to start mullet fishing.
Be gripped by the madness, like we all are.
Yeah.
Isn't this place fantastic?
Lovely, absolutely beautiful. It was lovely when we got down here about 6:15, I think, this morning. The tide was right out. We had a wade, and we just fished the tide coming in, and it's just been absolutely perfect. It's a good day, good day.
I think I just heard Tom swear then. Can I just point out to you that the entire vocabulary of a mullet angler does contain quite a few swear words, and you haven't experienced them all yet, and I hope you don't get to experience them all just yet. Just really nice and soft hands, and just feel that fish. Awesome stuff. I think that's quite a big fish, Tom.
He's just taken another 20 yards on me.
Yeah. The big ones take you down to the backing 4 or 5 times in the fight.
I haven't got much backing.
That's not what we want to hear now, Tom.
We had that conversation.
We did have that conversation with Colin last night, and he told me I should be worried, and I didn't believe him. I think he might be getting a little bit tired.
Bless you. You might be getting a little bit tired.
Well, I am, that's for sure. Been up since 4 o'clock in the morning.
So we're about, I'd say, 20 minutes into the fight, and Tom's still going, and so is this mullet. We're in deeper water, so where normally you're playing these fish in much shallower water, they run away from you and you can get them back in. But of course, because it's slightly deeper, the fish has got a lot more water to play with. It can go down as well as away, and this is a powerful big fish. The concern here at Church Norton is the tide comes in very quickly. So actually the water level has raised since Tom started playing this fish, and we're just trying to gently back off to try to find little pinnacles of shingle and sand to keep him up on his tippy toes playing this fish. Look at his face. The concentration is awesome. People say that they'd love to have a go at mullet fishing and that mullet fishing will be great fun. Actually, I can tell you this, having done a little bit of it, it is the most stressful piece of angling you will ever do in your life, because you never feel like you're in control. You know, any other fish species that I've ever caught, big fish, powerful, fast fish in fast flowing water, you feel like at some point you get into control of them and you can actually land them. But these things are just different gravy. They're just a different planet. They're like an alien species. You think you've got them under control, and then they just wake up and clear off. That one I caught yesterday laid on the top for ages, and I thought for a minute I'd even foul hooked it, but I hadn't. It was just kind of getting its breath back before it went charging off on another run. They're just extraordinary things. And when you catch one, you know you've just achieved something fantastic in angling. So I truly hope that Tom manages to get this one in the net. The Mullet Committee gather. Oh, nervous moments. Nervous moments, and everybody's feeling the same, I think. Tom's on the end of this creature, and everybody who's watching feels exactly the same as he does. I don't know if that makes you feel better or worse, Tom, but everybody's with you, mate. Jeez, what a fish. What a fish. I've just seen a glimpse of this fish and it's a proper lump. It's a very nice mullet. We're nice and shallow in here, but there's a little deep gully between us and the beach, so we've got to be a bit careful. And in these breakers, there's a lot more flow. But what that means is the fish is going to have to fight a bit harder to tire itself out. And now it's getting a lot shallower. Where is he? Oh, crikey. So if we can get below the fish like this, so we've obviously got the waves, the flow coming this way as the tide starts to come in. If the fish runs, it goes up, so it tires itself out. And then when it's tired and Tom manages to turn its head, it will come down the flow to me and I'll be able to scoop it, or I can come in next to him. Don't try and pull these fish up through the flow because there's loads and loads of pressure on the hook then and the hook hold. Right, we're in business. Just get his head up if you can. It's a big bit of weed. Oh, this fish is right under my feet and I daren't snatch at it. My God. So having had the experience of doing this for myself yesterday, I'm now doing it for somebody else, and I'm more nervous than I was yesterday. This has been an epic battle and Tom has done brilliantly, and I am not going to mess it up at the last minute for him. Come on fish, get your head up. Just get that head up. This is a lovely fish. There's a big bit of weed on the line. Can you just lift the rod tip slightly, Tom? Just really gently. Yes! Get in!
Thank you so much.
Oh mate, that's a big fish. That's a hell of a fish. That's a cracking mullet. No wonder that took you so long, mate. That is a fantastic fish. Just a crazy fish. Can I just say, I have never been more nervous landing a fish in my life.
Oh my God.
Biggest mullet caught in the competition so far is a 48 centimetre mullet, if you don't count mine yesterday, which doesn't count in the competition. And this one, you got it?
I think we got it.
This one is 48 centimetres.
Oh, he's ready to go already. Oh, thank you so much.
Good
Thank
lad.
you.
Well done, well done.
Appreciate it.
Feels a bit emotional, doesn't it?
A little bit, yeah.
Isn't that strange from fishing to do that? And as I said out there when we were playing it, this, everybody around, everybody sharing this experience is what this festival's all about.
Exactly, yeah.
Amazing. Well done.
I would
Congratulations.
not have expected to catch a fish like that or had an experience like that so close to home.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Steve, great to see you here. Interesting little process we've just watched. What was that like as a spectator?
A mixture of excitement, envy, and yeah, just glad to see you net it for him.
I was glad to see me net it for him. People have seen you on TV a lot as a comedian, as an actor, but this is a different environment, and I don't think people understand or know, who don't know you, that you've actually been fishing an awfully long time, haven't you? You've fished to a high level as well.
Well, yeah, fairly, yeah. I used to do the competition scenes when I was a young man and the sort of youth international trials and all that, you know. But then of course off to drama school, that takes up a lot of time, you know,
Yeah.
and committing to a fishing team, then you can't really do it. But yeah, I enjoy it. It's a huge part of my life.
Because I'm obviously being a professional actor, high pressured, a lot of stress, difficult to
Yeah.
find work sometimes, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So fishing, do you find it as an escape, or what does it do
Very
for you?
much so. I think what I love about fishing is it requires such a focus of attention on something very specific that everything else sort of melts away, you know. You're concentrating on the tip of the line or the tip of the rod, or you know, the flies off in the distance, and everything else disappears. All the white noise in your head goes away.
What about the festival then? How have you found that so far?
Oh, it's great. It's great. I was supposed to come last year, but work got in the way. So I'm thinking of quitting work, getting in the way of my fishing.
Be a professional angler, why not?
That would be, yeah, that would be the dream, yeah.
Should we both do that? I quite like the idea of that.
Yeah, that would be, I'd like that, yeah. But yeah, it's a great bunch of guys. We were just saying now to a guy I met yesterday how friendly everybody is, because you've got that common interest, you know. Always got something to talk about in the bar. How infuriating mullet are, mostly.
Well, listen, I best let you get on and try and catch a few fish.
Thank you very
Good
much,
to speak
Andy.
to you, and
Cheers.
enjoy the rest of the festival.
Thank you very much, you too.
So while Tom Williams revelled in his achievement, the Saltwater Festival entered its final stages. There were a few decent bass being caught on the second day. Here's rodmaker Richard Lyon Wilson laying a huge fish in the shallows. It was a big relief when it ended up in the net. This bass measured a superb 52 centimetres. Well, while it was great to see Tom landing that fantastic mullet at Church Norton, let's not forget that this is also a competition. Now, we've moved to Selsey Bill, just a couple of miles down the coast. Glorious, glorious day it's turned into. And the man over my left shoulder is Steve Richards, who yesterday was leading the whole thing with some fantastic bass fishing, and this morning he's done it again. So we're going to join him this afternoon, have a little potter around here to see if we can't see what makes Steve tick. Perfect. Well, mate, we're having a little moment of contemplation here on the beach at Selsey, waiting for the tide to do something different. You've had a good morning, haven't you?
It's been okay. Been to a couple of spots. Wasn't comfortable with either of them, and it was literally rocked up here. Looked at it, there was a lovely bit of movement. It looked good, so gave it a go. Yeah, gave it a go.
What are you looking at? So we're at a state at the moment of slack tide pretty much, so you can't see, we're looking at these groins, the little wooden things around us, where there's a little bit of rip coming off the back, so the tide's moving stuff.
You're fishing the rips because the fish are sitting in the rips. All the bait will be hiding behind the groins, staying in the rips. They'll be trying to get the bait that's coming across the tide as well. And the bigger fish will be trying to eat the bait that's trying to get the small stuff. So it's kind of a combination of things, but it's also a spot that the small fish can kind of get out the lee of the tide. So this was, that's my interpretation of it. Whether that's the correct interpretation, I don't. But it's always, rips are always good to fish. Rips and structure, and if you've got rips and structure, perfect.
Now, we're talking about this being a competition, of course. You've already come pretty close last year, you did well.
Yeah.
This year you're right up there again. Yeah. What would it mean to you to kind of come out on top in this event though? There's a lot of very good anglers around on these beaches.
This event's a nice event, but there are some very good anglers. And there's anglers here that I kind of look up to and respect, so it's a good competition. But I grew up in a very competitive world. My father was an England international for about 14 years, so I grew up in that. So I've always been competitive. So this is kind of, this incorporates my competitive side, and I make no secret of it. I've been a bass nut since as long as, I've got a photograph of me at 6 years old, a newspaper cutting of me holding a bass. So I've been a bass nut for that long. So this is, fly fishing, bass, the location. If it's, if the wind's blowing, there's always someone, with this location, there's always somewhere you can get out the wind. You may not catch as well as other places at times, but it's, for this sort of festival, honestly, they couldn't have chosen a better place, really.
Well look, we've been sitting here talking for a bit too long. Should we start doing some fishing?
We can give it a go, yeah. Why not?
You know, this weekend I've been a little bit obsessed with the mullet fishing, and we have seen some fantastic fish, but being down here with Steve flicks you into a completely different zone. You know, it's great watching him. It's just great watching him. He's obviously a real competitor and has got that coursing through his veins. His dad used to be an England beach international angler and a very successful one at that. So from a young age he's been brought up with that competition element in his head. And watching the level of intensity of Steve fishing is just a privilege, and that's probably why he's leading this event. But let me just talk you through the tactics of this sort of fishing. So it's a different setup to the mullet completely. I'm still using my 8-weight rod, but I'm not using a floating line anymore. I'm using an intermediate. So the tip on this line essentially sinks about 12 feet of it. And it's a cast out with a big clouser, so a fly that's got a heavy tungsten head on it that drops it through the water column. And you just cast out, allow it to sink, and rather than kind of slow, deliberate strips, there's a little bit more movement in the fly to try to tap into those aggressive attacking instincts of the bass, looking to ambush bait fish behind these wooden structures. A process of a big pop to flip those flies off the bottom, and then quick little strips, a little bit of a stop every now and again. And what you're trying to do, which is a process that all the best kind of lure and fly anglers I've ever fished with have told me, is to just try to imagine what those flies are doing under the water, and always feel every single cast, for every second your flies are in the water, that there's a great big predator chasing after them. And that doesn't half focus your attention, because if you think there's a bass behind your flies, you're going to be switched on and then you won't miss the take. So that's the theory. Be really interesting to see what happens here. We've got about, I suppose, an hour and a half left to fish, maybe an hour and a quarter. I just hope Steve gets 1 or 2 more fish and replicates the success he's already had yesterday and this morning. Well, Steve, we've had a glorious, actually, hour and a half. I know we haven't caught any fish really, apart from one little tiny bass that I've just had. I've really enjoyed it. I sense we've kind of missed the best of it, the fishing you had this morning.
We have, unfortunately, yeah. Yeah, it's one of them cases you should have been here yesterday moments, but yeah, it was good this morning. But it's always, you know, start of the tide. The beach is crowded now as well, so start of the tide, good bit of tide movement. Great fishing. As soon as the tide slacks, sun's out, that's it. Time to go home, really.
You know what we're going to have to do now, don't you? Go back and see if you won the competition.
Well, yeah, honestly. It'd be nice, it's been nice, but if it doesn't, it's, you know, it's one of them things not meant to be, but still cracking fish, you know, so it's good anyway.
Awesome. So how about the rest of the anglers? Here's a little photo gallery to show you how some of them fared. When it came to the presentations, that fish, caught by Tom Williams after his epic battle in the morning, won the prize for the biggest mullet. But there was no doubt who'd won the overall title.
So the individual that's won this, I think this is the prize they wanted, okay? because they have made it their mission to actually achieve it by being here for a few days before and understanding everything about the waters. So again, you know, the multi-prize winning Steve Richards, can you step forward? Well done, Steve.
Do you know what I love about this is that, you know, there've been a lot of interesting mullet caught this weekend, but you're a bass nut, out and out bass nut. This has been a bass competition and you've won it with bass. Congratulations.
It's just bass, to me it's bass. You know, you can tell by the t-shirt, you know, it's just bass. But if I come back next year, I might try for mullet, you know, so give mullet a go.
You never know, you might get gripped by the madness.
Well, I might do, but mullet is, you know, it's with PJ and Colin, it's just mad, isn't it? But yeah, look, it's a great festival. Everyone's standing around, you know, talking, chatting, having fun. Yeah, I love this festival, you know. I've done well in it 2 years on the trot, so in fact I've done it exceptionally well this year, so I've been a very lucky boy.